Hello, folks. It's Chris Dagger right here for another episode of Christ in the Car. I believe we're at episode number 6 right now. I might be mistaken. We all make mistakes. We're all sinners in the end, so the actual episode count really doesn't matter, to be honest with you. Today, I want to talk about a very important topic because every single human being on the face of God's green earth can somewhat relate to this following topic. And the topic of today is friendship. Who are your friends? Choose your friends wisely. You're the sum of the 5 people that you surround yourself most often with. We often hear these sayings, these quotes, these proverbs, these recommendations, these rules of thumb. And it's funny because friendship is such a wild thing, and the more people mature. I'm 31 years old now, so I've had a lot of different types of friendships that have been dissolved because of falling outs, friendships that have been fostered, and new friendships that are on the way. But the thing is, we often conflate friendships with acquaintances, with family members, and so on. And it's very important to know your words. Words carry a lot of power, a lot of weight. We hear that a lot. Words have significance, and choosing your words wisely is a skill that's going to reflect your level of maturity, and also a skill that's going to take you very far in life. Because if you're good with words and you're able to nitpick and choose the ones that are appropriate for the situation, if you're able to choose them wisely, you're going to be able to communicate better. Now, aside from words, I want to talk about friendship because the Bible says that friendship with the world might equate with enmity with God. Friendship with the world is enmity with God. I'm paraphrasing. I should have been a bit more prepared, to know exactly which epistle talks about this. But, those folks that know their Bible pretty well, better than I do, can actually understand where this verse is and what this verse is talking about. Because being friends with the world is something that is quite instinctive. It's of the flesh, for sure. Because the world, everything that's worldly, is fleshly. It's of the flesh. And friendship with the world basically means a lot of things. Let's say if I'm obsessed with cars, I talked about this in one of my previous episodes. If I'm friends with this relation that I have with a car, that the car is part of the world, but it's not necessarily part of God. It's not part of God at all, actually. It's not a spiritual thing. It's not a treasure in heaven. It's a treasure on earth. Also, friends with the world means if I prioritize my friends here and I do everything that I can, as desperately as I can, to maintain these friendships, but compromise my relationship with God, what am I doing? What exactly am I choosing? Who am I actually choosing to be with? Why am I choosing these friends over being friends with Christ? Is it not better to be friends with Christ than to be friends with people that are going to draw me away from Him? Friendships are going to be lost because of your faith. I've personally lost a handful of friendships because of the zeal and the fervor that I have for my faith, and I don't even consider myself an extremist. Some people are way more extreme than I am. I've even lost touch, or I've had some, rough patches and distorted friendships, dissolved friendships, I would say, with folks that have been too extreme with the religious beliefs. And I'm talking about Christians like myself. Folks that just were ideologically possessed with their own perspective of Christianity, their own, Plato modeled form of Christianity. And I didn't understand why they would be so bigoted and why those blinders were so important to them. And I don't consider myself as a liberal Christian. I'm just a plain, simple Christian who read his Bible. I can't pull out Bible verses left and right like a what's it called? An encyclopedia. But I can articulate the content in a way that can be suitable for a simple conversation. Now, if you're unable to have these types of conversations with friends, agnostic friends, atheist friends, friends that are not able to have ears wide open to listen to what you have to say about your faith, a heart that's simply open to receiving your message of evangelism, well, are you truly friends with these people? Ask yourself that question. Am I able to maintain these friendships if they're not open to hearing of the faith? If they're just smoking buddies or drinking buddies or party girlfriends or boyfriends or whatever, guy friends, or just pretend to be friends or situationship friends or whatnot, like, are these friendships actually worth it, or are they not a waste of time, a waste of energy? Heck, I wouldn't even say a waste of your own soul, you know? Because if I'm going to forsake my soul and discard God just to be friends with people with whom I'm having temporary fun after temporary fun, I'm going to feel empty at the end of the day. The man upstairs is always going to be knocking at your door and willing to be friends with you. But trust me when I say this. Folks that start smelling the fervor of Christianity off of you and start getting turned off because you're a Christian, I would venture to say that they've never been your friends in the first place. And that's sad, because I can't force open-mindedness. I can't force a meek, tender, gentle heart out of anybody. You can't force people to bend your own way. I can't force people to swallow down an evangelism message and I'm simply trying to cater to them. And if they're not open to actually listening, they're not my friends. And that's okay. You know, part of maturing and growing up is knowing which friends to let go of, which so-called friends. You don't need to become enemies with these people. Do not have enemies in your life, right? Do not be of reproach. Just know that a lot of people are really going to despise you for thinking a certain way regarding societal issues that I'm not going to get into in this video. They're going to dislike you for not partaking in certain activities and certain things. They're going to think that you're better than them, whereas you don't think that at all. And that's just part of life. This is not supposed to be or meant to be a sad video. This is simply some sort of wake-up call for you to understand that even in church, you're going to get church hurt by people that are going to pretend to be your friends. Whether in church or outside of church, at some point in your life, you're going to be ostracized. You're going to be stabbed in the back. You're going to get hurt. Someone's going to hurt you. You can't perfectly protect yourself. Someone's going to find that weak spot and exploit it, hopefully for a short amount of time and not for too long. Just know that you have to be on guard. I really want to do another video about friendship, about interpersonal relationships in general, as an umbrella term, because this is so important for a lot of people. Know who your friends are. And as the saying goes, I have to agree with this actually, keep your friends close, your true friends, but keep your enemies closer. Stay holy.